Welcome to our session, Nature and Forest Therapy. Come home to yourself with Beth Montgomery.
Hello, my name is Beth Montgomery from Soul Nurture, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to share practices in nature and to participate in this wonderful summit. The opportunity for all of us to connect and to connect in nature. That's really special. I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I have always been a nature baby. From a very young age, I just intuitively knew that nature was good for me. I understood the healing benefits of being outdoors, and I actually sought refuge, if you will, out in natural places from a very young age. And it's not that I was running from anything or there was anything wrong. I just seemed to be drawn to nature. And I think we all are. As I grew up, I spent a lot of time in nature, and eventually I studied biology at university, freshwater biology, and I had the opportunity to wander around in the swamps and connect with all the water beings and tree beings, and it really was a special time. I graduated though, and there were not any jobs in biology at the time, and I ended up in the corporate world, went on to have decades of experience. I don't even want to tell you how many decades of experience in wonderful roles in the corporate world. I met incredible people, had the opportunity to do amazing things, and I loved it all. But a time came where, and through all of that time, I spent a lot of time in nature and wilderness, all my vacation time, all my spare time, because that is where I felt the most comfortable in my own skin. There came a time where I had studied restorative yoga, forest therapy, personal journeying, coaching, and I just came to a place where I couldn't go up the corporate elevator anymore. I just had to be out in nature. And I felt very called to share these practices as well. So here I am. And I'm really delighted to be here with you. And today we're going to meet ourselves here in nature. So I'm glad you're along for the ride. Our practice of Shinrin Yoku, forest bathing, forest therapy, it's all about experiencing nature through all of our senses, moving very slowly and without any preset agenda. So we're going to take some time together here to just be. Just be.
So we'll begin our time together today, dropping into this forest, dropping into this land, and we'll be exploring through our senses. And I also want to provide opportunities to share with you things you can do yourself if you're not being guided in forest therapy, forest bathing, Shinrin Yoku. You'll hear it called all of those names. How you might also practice by yourself. So let's just jump in and see where we go. Drawing in a nice deep breath, allowing the exhale to come when it comes, and just breathing here in the forest. What does it feel like to just breathe? We'll explore our senses today, but in the moment, just breathing. We'll be exploring using all of our senses, our sense of touch, all of the textures, noticing what we smell, all the different aromas, even the sense of taste. We can sometimes taste the air when we're in nature or what we last ate or drank. And listening, using our ears, sounds far away and close in. And also our sense of vision. What are we seeing? Noticing it all.
In our practice of forest therapy, forest bathing, we just hang out in natural places. Take time to slow down, tap into all of our senses, and experience the land using all of our senses. And when we say forest, we often use the term forest to represent just land. Perhaps it might be beach, lake, river, grasslands, desert, anywhere that you feel called to be in nature, to be with nature, to slow down your pace, slow down your breathing. Here in this little place, we're on a very small little creek in an urban community outside Toronto. So a very large community, and yet here we are, not even a really beautiful piece of water in that it isn't crystal clear and blue the way we might expect what one might be looking for this practice. But the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. The serenity and peace, one moment, perhaps maybe grief and sadness the next. Taking time. Sometimes when I'm out, I have the feeling that some of the trees that I walk by, in my imagination, they need me to hug them. And when I go to give a tree, like this big old tree, a hug, sometimes I then question who needed the hug, the tree or me, or both. And then I look around and I think of all the trees that I would like to hug and maybe would like to hug me. And then I think, is there ever enough time in life to hug every tree? So I just give this one another big hug, hoping it'll pass it along through its root connections to all the other trees. Got a little being I've picked up here. It's coming along for a ride. walking slowly, and pausing whenever I feel called to pause. Being open, taking in the scent of the forest in the morning. Can't even begin to put words to describe that experience, so not even worrying or trying to. Just accepting. Often find I'm curious about who else lives, who else goes in these places. Wondering who might live in that little space in the tree. Place of numerous paths, crossroads of sorts, choices. Which way? Which way calls my heart this morning? Perhaps this way, a little deeper into the woods. I'm walking a lot slower than I normally walk. Normally I walk with a destination in mind, with a list of things that need to get done, with purpose. And here I'm just meandering. No set path I need to take. No particular timeline. It's beautiful how out in nature, in my experience, and perhaps you've had the same, time seems to sort of collapse. And that's one of the beauties of forest bathing, is we can bask in these nature places without any construct of time. There's so many ways to participate in forest bathing or forest therapy. As a guide, I definitely believe in the merits of going out with a guide, a trained forest therapy, forest bathing guide. I trained with the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy. There are other training institutions, Global Institute of Forest Therapy, GIFT, Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, ANFT, which is who I trained with. And there's guides all over the world. And if you go on the websites of the training institutions, they have maps where they pin the names of guides all over the world. It's beautiful if you're traveling anywhere in the world to get out into nature with a trained guide. They know all about the plant and animal beings that we need to be aware of when we're out in nature. So it's a beautiful way to connect and have some time in nature in countries or places where maybe you're a little bit nervous about what might be there that you don't know a lot about, or what plants to avoid, etc. So that's a really great way to get out in nature when you're traveling. Here at home, wherever you live, you can find a local guide, and your forest therapy guide, your forest bathing guide, will be able to take you out and hold the space for you to have a very deep experience in nature. And there's something really special about being guided. You don't have to do any of the planning or the thinking. You just go and be. But we can't always be out with a guide. So there's lots of ways that you can learn to be out in nature and practice forest bathing on your own. And one of the things that I want to share with you today is a practice, and it's a practice within our practice, which we call sit spot. So finding a place in nature where you go every day. You could go for 5 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, but try and go every day. Take a chair, find a rock, a log, but go to that same place. And go to that place and do just that, sit. Sit and be. And when you do this repeatedly, notice what happens for you. Notice what you become aware of. And if you do this over the course of seasons, a year, it can be a really, really wonderful experience. So I would encourage you, find a spot, settle in, and just be. You can have your eyes open, you can have your eyes closed, you can change it up. And if you want to also change the time of day, that's also a really interesting way to participate in sit spot. But the point is, go back to the same place, your sit spot, and spend some time. And you may even decide to keep a sit spot journal. If you decide to keep a journal, I would encourage you to journal after your sit spot time, because then you're actually participating in your sit spot, not journaling. But sometimes it's beautiful to journal after your sit spot so that you can go back over your notes and see what came up for you, what was there for you. There's a lot of books written about sit spot. If you're interested in this little mini practice within a practice, there's a lot of resources available. It's not unique to ANFT. So I encourage you to check that out and see what comes to you in your sit spot. And I'm sitting here in sit spot. And as I'm sitting here, a little slow reveal. This little guy coming to me. almost as if he's become a little more comfortable because I'm here every day. The slow reveals. Today the grass is wet. Big Daddy Longlegs is just wandering by right here. Not quite in focus. There he is. Kind of wandered into my view in my sit spot. And it looks like there's something else, various other little beings crawling up to my daddy long legs, which if I was walking by quickly, I would never have noticed. But because I'm sitting here just being, other beings are here in my sit spot. Another squirrel has just come to join me. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm literally sitting on a tiny stool. But it's as if this incredible nature movie. There's another squirrel over here. And there's all kinds of things on my tree behind me. Crawling and creeping and birds. And they're all revealing themselves slowly to me. There's that beautiful little daddy long legs. And I appreciate for some, creepy crawlies are not anything to be excited about. But also knowing that you go out with an awareness of what the poisonous plants or the animal beings that you need to be aware of in your area, so that you take proper precautions. If you're in bear country, perhaps in sit spot, you want to keep your eyes open. Where I am here, we have coyotes, and occasionally a coyote will appear. But just being aware of what there is in your own community, in your own sit spot. And if you're really nervous about the beings and the plants that might feel scary to you, knowing that sit spot can take form in your backyard, on your balcony, anywhere where there's a bit of nature, could even be looking out a window, could even be with some houseplants, or in your vegetable garden, your flower garden. So whatever feels comfortable for you. And I'm just noticing in my sit spot here, the very root of this tree, to me it feels like the roots of the trees are forming toes at the base of the tree, and I've never noticed that before. And I've sat here time and time again. And so that's what I mean by these slow reveals. The longer we sit, the more often we go to our sit spot, the more that is revealed. And I can feel myself exhaling deeply as I'm just being in this place that feels very familiar to me. It's very close to my home. But a place where I belong and I connect. And continuing on in my sit spot, the longer I have been sitting, now this very sweet slug being has come into my space, or perhaps I'm in their space, I think is more accurate. And this little one certainly is showing me what moving slowly really means. Perhaps the next time I feel like I'm running late, or I can be like a slug and just remind myself it's okay to go slow. Some other little insects went right by the slug. And it looks like he's making his way into the tree. I don't think he's even aware I'm here, or if he is, he, she, not fussed. Off in the distance, I can hear some walkers coming into my view and awareness. The slug is unaware of them, I think. Unfussed. As the walkers have now gone by, I took the opportunity to simply stand up and turn my body around on my stool to then notice another little slug on another one of the toes of the tree, moving off in a different direction, again ever so slowly. And as I continue to stare at this tree, there's so many little spiders and insects. And again, I repeat, these don't bother me, but if they bother you, then choose a sit spot that feels just right for you. This is a very individual practice. A moment ago, I saw a sleeping firefly. In our practice, we don't name. This is not a nature interpretive practice where the guides will tell you what all of the beings are. However, in my own practice, I'm always fascinated by what I come in connection with. As I'm hanging out here with all of my non-human friends, Perhaps you heard some footsteps behind me of a human and dog. So your sit spot can be as long or as short as you like it to be. Whatever works for your schedule. For today, I'm going to bid farewell to my little forest friends, plants, trees, and beings here in my sit spot. Taking comfort in knowing that I'll come back to see them again. Either the same beings or different beings. Different reveals each day. And yet each day I learn so much. I learn about myself and I learn about my place in the world, my place among things, my place among all of nature. I'm leaning back against this tree, and my body's sort of placing all of my weight and trust into the tree. Cicadas all around me. And the tree is just providing the support I need. Perhaps there's a tree that has what you need, and you'd like to lean against the tree or drape your body over the tree, whatever feels right for you. But finding a tree or a rock or a log, anything in nature where your body feels called to just be held by nature. And if it doesn't feel right for you to actually touch a tree with your body or a rock, then just allowing the air around you, the essence of the natural space, to hold you. And noticing what you notice. Just hanging out with some of these little droplets, tiny droplets of water on the pine. Wondering how long these little droplets might just hang on here before they finally let go. Perhaps they let go because it's too much burden to hold on anymore. Or perhaps they feel free to move along. But just being with these water droplets, it kind of makes me feel privileged to be here. They only land on this needle once, and they only fall to the ground once. And I'm here to bear witness. Practice in patience, perhaps. Wondering which little droplet will provide sustenance and nourishment to the forest, to the animals, the plants.
So much joy just hanging out here. Wondering what you notice. And I'll softly release my gaze and allow the pine to continue to just be. Offering in my mind a little bit of gratitude for the pine providing me with a couple of moments of peace and joy. I'm going to take a moment of shameless self-promotion here. I mentioned forest therapy, that you can get out and do forest bathing and forest therapy on your own. One of the things that I've done to help people is I've created this little card deck, which consists of 43 cards. So it's here in a little pouch, a little feather business card, which can be used as a bookmark, in a little pouch. And the card deck consists of 43 cards, 43 invitations. So invitations for you to experience the land in a way that feels right for you. A couple of little cards to explain how to use the deck and how the deck came into being. And then the 43 cards. So on the back side of the cards is a little keyhole into the forest with the quote from Amos Clifford, the founder of ANFT, the organization I trained with. The forest is the therapist. The guide opens the doors. And then each of the 43 cards has a picture, a nature picture, and an invitation of a way that you may perhaps experience the land. And again, everybody will interpret the cards differently because it's a very personal practice. I'll read you one of the cards. Ask the waters. Water is life-giving. Gaze at the water, touch the water, play with the water, or be with the water. Perhaps you have a question to ask of the waters. Maybe the waters have a message for you. So just an example of one of the cards. These cards are available on our website. There's 43 cards in the deck. And there is a discount code that I'll offer. It'll be noted below. And the discount code will offer you $5 off the cards if you order them in 2022 as a participant of this summit. So hoping that those might be an offering that's available to you. In addition to these cards, there's lots and lots of things that are written, and you could certainly take advantage of those. So here is the code I mentioned that can be used for ordering the forest therapy invitation cards. Perhaps a screenshot would be helpful so that you have the code to enter at the time that you order the cards, and that'll be valid through the end of the year for anyone that has participated in the summit, offering $5 off the forest therapy invitation cards. So thank you for taking the opportunity to drop in here and share this time, and I hope that you have found a little bit of time in the forest, peaceful, and perhaps provided you with something you needed.
And if you're interested in more information about participating in a forest therapy walk, check out a guide in your local area and perhaps get out on a forest therapy walk, a forest bathing walk, and see how that practice feels for you. If you'd like more information or if you'd like to reach out, I'm always happy to answer questions. You're welcome to visit Neil and my website, www.soulnurture.ca, and reach out where if you're in our local area, we'd be happy to take you out on a walk. We also are happy to find a guide for you anywhere in the world. We just love sharing this practice. So wishing you lots and lots of time in nature, lots of joy and peace and ease in all of the sessions that you're finding here on this beautiful summit, and gratitude for your time and gratitude for this summit. To all the gals that put it together, so much gratitude. Wishing you peace, joy, ease, and love.
Sharing the poem Breathe by Becky Hemsley. Breathe. She sat at the back and they said she was shy. She led from the front and they hated her pride. They asked her advice and then questioned her guidance. They branded her loud, then they were shocked by her silence. When she shared no ambition, they said it was sad. So she told them her dreams, and they said she was mad. They told her they'd listen, then they covered their ears and gave her a hug while they laughed at her fears. And she listened to all of it, thinking she should be the girl they told her to be, best as she could. But one day she asked what was best for herself, instead of trying to please everyone else. So she walked to the forest and stood with the trees. She heard the wind whisper and dance with the leaves. And she spoke to the willow, the elm, and the pine. And she told them what she'd been told time after time. She told them she never felt nearly enough. She was either too little or far, far too much, too loud or too quiet, too fierce or too weak, too wise or too foolish, too bold or too meek. Then she found a small clearing surrounded by firs, and she stopped and she heard what the trees said to her. And she sat there for hours not wanting to leave, for the forest said nothing. It just let her breathe.